everybody? Welcome back to the Powered by Christ podcast, Season 2, Episode 4. Yes, you are tuning into Season 2, Episode 4. And I'm real excited to put this video out. Now, this is another solo video that I'm doing for the topic that I have chosen today. And right now, I'm about to tell you all the topic that I chose. The topic that I chose for Season 2, Episode 4 is the commonness of faking being a Christian and people trying to falsely accelerate their blessing. And I feel like that's so important because we see a lot of fake Christians nowadays. It's like somebody else having a disguise on, like all over their body, but it's a spiritual disguise, not a physical disguise. But in this whole podcast, I'm about to be explaining why it's not good to be a fake Christian or to fake being a Christian, because there's negative consequences to it. So my name is Malachi Jones, musically known as MalWorldWide. Y'all go stream my podcast and y'all stream my music on all platforms. I have a new album coming out August called TBTB. The album track list is going to be revealed next month in mid-July, so y'all stay tuned for that. But without further ado, I'm going to hop straight into the podcast. I'm not going to waste no time. So I've chosen 3 verses for this podcast on the commonness of faking being a Christian and many people falsely trying to accelerate their blessings. And a majority of the 3 verses that I chose come from the book of Luke, because I feel like Luke just touches on so much. Like Matthew, Mark, and Luke, like they all go hand in hand because they talk about similar things. But what really stuck out to me is specifically the first verse I chose is Luke chapter 6 verses 46. And it says, "So why do you keep calling me Lord, Lord, when you don't do what I say?" I know so many people can relate to this. Like, whenever you're weak in your walk with God, whether that be just being disobedient or just not being attentive to his commands or just not following everything that he's saying, I know this can relate to somebody because we're not perfect in our walks with God. And I know this doesn't relate to everybody, but it definitely relates to a whole lot of people and a handful of people. So what I feel like this means as far as the commonness of faking being a Christian is that you can only fake being a Christian for so long. You can't fake it your whole walk. You can't fake it your whole life, most definitely. But there's no point in calling on someone for good things that you want to happen if you're not even obeying it. That's like you want something good from your parents and they told you to be good to get it, but instead you're not. You're doing your own thing and you're just cropping them out the picture, basically. You're basically saying screw them and forget about them. That's basically what you're saying. But Luke 6:46 relates to a person faking being a Christian and a person trying to falsely accelerate their own blessings, because you will not receive anything from God if you're not on his good side. You will not receive anything from God if you're not listening to him. You will receive negative consequences from disobeying God. And Luke 6:46 is implying that. It's implying that, not necessarily specifically faking being a Christian in this manner, but you can put that context in it and that'll make sense. So what I said just makes sense. If you put the context of a person faking being a Christian and then you tie it to Luke 6:46, so why do you keep calling me Lord, Lord when you don't do what I say? There's no need to call on God if you're not following him. Don't call on someone if you're not following them. Don't even call on someone if you're not close to him. It's like a stranger calling your phone every single time. The stranger doesn't do nothing for you. The stranger doesn't know you. You don't know the stranger, but they keep calling you. Chances are you're most likely not going to answer. And it's the same with God. He's most likely not going to answer you because you're not close to him. Y'all don't know each other. He knows of you, but he doesn't know you. He wants your heart. He wants you. But without further ado, that leads me to my second verse. And my second verse is also still in Luke. And the second verse that I have specifically is Luke chapter 8 verses 17. And Luke chapter 8 verses 17 says, "All that is secret will eventually be brought to the open, and everything that is concealed will be brought to the light and made known to all." So I'm about to explain this and how I feel like this relates to the commonness of faking being a Christian, people trying to falsely accelerate their blessings. Because you know, whenever you get in trouble or like whenever you get caught doing something, you can only get away with something for a certain period of time before matters get worse. And in this case, you can fake being a Christian in the dark, meaning you can go to church every single Sunday of your life, and you know what I'm saying, you can party the whole week. You think nobody knows about it, but God knows about it because he sees everything. Or you can go to church every Sunday. You know, you can live good throughout the week, but let's say you go to church every Sunday, right? I'm gonna just use a perfect example of what I mean. You can go to church every Sunday, and throughout the whole entire week, you know, you're married to your spouse, but whenever you're away from your spouse, you always tell your spouse you have to go somewhere throughout the week. And that's a little bit shady, but every time you tell your spouse you have to go somewhere, you're linking up with somebody else to commit adultery. Can you imagine how God feels about that? That is one of the biggest sins in the whole word. Not just the whole world, but the whole word. Like committing adultery on your spouse who's been nothing but loyal to you, faithful and loving to you. That should be a crime, but it's not. Instead, it's a huge sin. but it equates to a crime, if that makes sense. But the reason I said that verse is because I feel like that specifically relates to the commonness of faking being a Christian, because it's like you're putting on a mask, a holy mask for the world to see. Like, you come off as this good person, you come off as flawless, you come off as, oh, I want everybody to see me as so nice, I want everybody to see me as such a good person, I want everybody to see me as somebody who's such a great influence and all this glitter and glamour and all that. But as soon as you leave from, you know, like a powerful location or a location that's encouraging and uplifting, you go do stuff that's draining. You go and do stuff that is terrible. You go and do stuff that harms yourself, harms your ego, harms God. And just because no set of eyes are on you at that particular time doesn't mean absolutely no eyes are on you. It doesn't matter if you're all alone. It doesn't matter if you're all alone with this person. It doesn't matter if you're all alone with this person that you're not even supposed to be with. God sees that, and God is upset. And one way or another, God is going to send his wrath upon your life. Whether it be like a dream, a vision, you know, something like real happening in your life, whatever the case may be, God is going to make sure something happens. And I feel like just Luke 8:17 is so important. Because, okay, I'm gonna put it like this. It's okay to have a private life. Like, we all have a private life. We all have, you know, a part of our lives that we keep for ourselves and the people that we're closest to. But there's a difference between a private life and a quiet life. Your private life is what you keep away from the world, what you keep away from everybody else, and that's perfectly fine. But your secret life is what you really don't want nobody knowing. No, like, literally, like, maybe 2 people at max. But your secret life is what you don't want nobody knowing. But there's a lot of people in the world who keep a lot of evil in their secret life. And the secret life is a part of the private life, but it's kind of at the same time its very own thing. But you really have to be discerning that there are so many people who do so much evil in their secret life that you can't see. And then they put on like this nice mask or this spiritual godly disguise to make it look like they're not the same person they are, you know, in their secret life. And another thing I could say related to that verse is this quote that I heard like 3 weeks ago. And this is the quote that I heard. It was like, who you are in silence or who you are in secret is who you really are. Or you could word it like this. Who you are when nobody's watching is who you really are. Because more of your life you're not around people than when you are around people. So what are you doing when you're not around people? Are you feeding yourself with the word? Are you praying? Are you asking God for your heart's desires? Are you being obedient? Are you listening to his commands? Are you spending time with other like-minded people? Are you, you know what I'm saying, watching uplifting things? Are you watching encouraging things, watching godly things? Are you praying with other people, praying for other people? I could literally make a whole handful of stuff that you could do when nobody else is watching. But my whole point I'm trying to make is that who you are when nobody's watching you is who you really are. Who I am when no one's watching me is who I really am. And I'm a positive person. Even when no one's watching, I still stay prayed up. I still read. I stay close to him. I stay away from people who don't know him. And this is another quote of encouragement. When you stay away from people that don't know God, you don't have to necessarily stay away from them in a bad way, like you hate them, but more so stay away from them in an influential way, if that makes sense. Like, you're staying away from them, but you're influencing them from a distance, if that makes sense. Like, you're over here, they're over here. You separated yourself from them because you knew you had to move on and grow apart. You knew this crowd was not your crowd, so you had to part ways with them. And so when you do part ways, you can still leave a lasting impact and a lasting influence on them through whatever path God calls you to take in your life. But you have to know for a fact that you aren't a fake Christian, but they may be. I'm not saying they 100% are, but they may be. There's a lot of people out here nowadays who are faking being a Christian and who are trying to, you know, falsely accelerate their blessing. They think that just because they fake being a Christian, that means they, you know, gain all these blessings. But really in real life, they're not obedient. They don't have no fruit of the Spirit. They don't have no love, no joy, no kindness, no patience. They don't have none of the fruit of the Spirit equipped. They don't have no armor of God. They just know maybe like 3 verses, and then that's it. They don't spend no other time with God. They don't pray. They don't read. They don't do nothing else God related. They may go to church, but my point is that they don't do a whole lot for God. They are not fully who God wants them to be. And God is upset at that. But at the same time, God can't force that person, or God can't force this crowd. And God can't even force you to be fully obedient to him. That's a choice that you have to make behind closed doors. And it's kind of sad to me that so many people fake being a Christian because they miss out on all the blessings that they really could have. Like, the real reason that people who fake being Christian, miss out on their blessings, and they think that their blessings will get falsely accelerated, is because they think just because they label themselves as the name Christian, that means something. Although it does mean something, words without actions are dead. Just like faith without works is dead. You would not believe somebody if they told you something a million times and never followed through on it. You wouldn't believe your significant other, your spouse, or someone you love. You wouldn't believe them if they told you that I'm going to do this for you, but they never acted on it. Same with God. Why would God believe you if you keep telling him you have faith for something? You have faith that this is going to work out. You have faith that this is going to happen, but you're not putting in action. You're not putting in work. That's why the word says faith without works is dead, because if you don't put in work behind closed doors, if you don't put in work to be shown publicly, to present to the world, all your hard work, if you don't show that, your faith will not get stronger. Your faith will not increase. You won't have as much blessing as you desire to because you don't have work in your faith. It's not an active faith. You're not continuously working towards it. But faking being a Christian really shows its true colors, as in Luke 8:17. When everything that's secret will be brought to the open for the light. When all of that becomes made known to all. That's how you know who's a fake Christian and who's not. Like, a good example of a fake Christian is someone who is a fake pastor. And I'm sure everybody listening knows what a fake pastor is. Someone who is presenting the word. They sound good. They sound professional. Mind you, they have Satan within them too, and they sound professional, right? And this is the biggest way people get you. This is the biggest way false Christians and false pastors, false prophets get you. Their biggest tactic is always sound professional, so you don't know, because you're not supposed to know. And it's the same way, just like this, what I'm about to say. Why would Satan present you with something that you don't want? Why would Satan tempt you with something that you don't want? Do you ever notice that every time Satan tempts you, it's with something that you do want? It's with things that you do like. It's with things that you do love. Satan will never tempt you with something that you don't want. That's why you have to be discerning, and you have to have discernment. But back to what I meant about the false pastors and fake pastors and people trying to fake being a Christian. You will see that if you really use your discernment. And an example of that is just a pastor who is presenting the word like biased and like throwing in their own context in the word and stuff like that. A pastor who is talking to the women in the congregation secretly when he has a wife. When he has a whole wife, he's still talking to the women in the congregation. But you wouldn't know that unless you knew his secret life. You would not know that unless you prayed to God to reveal to you discernment. And so there's pastors who do worse than that. There's pastors who take all the offering money for themselves. There's pastors who use God for views, use God for attention. There's pastors who continuously commit adultery and don't get caught till later on. There's pastors who use themselves to bring other people down. There's pastors who, try to make themselves feel good, to make others feel bad. There's pastors who do so much more other things, but you'll never know that unless you have discernment. You'll never know that unless you have the discernment and the knowledge in the back of your mind that there are so many people who fake being a Christian. The commonness of faking being a Christian and faking Christianity is very popular. So just because you hear or that there's so many Christians out in the world, yes there is, but there's also a side that you don't know about and a side that you don't see unless you're discerning. And that leads me to my third verse. And this verse actually that I'm about to read from now, this verse actually doesn't come from Luke, but it's still powerful. It's short but it's powerful. That's like the whole book of Proverbs. It's short but it's powerful. But what I'm about to read now, it comes from specifically Proverbs chapter 10 verses 9. And Proverbs chapter 10 verses 9 says this: people with integrity walk safely, but those who follow crooked paths will be exposed. And Proverbs 10:9 relates to the commonness of faking being a Christian because Christians walk with integrity. Christians who walk with integrity walk safely. And those who try to fake being a Christian will get exposed because they have no integrity. They're not walking with integrity. Nobody on earth can be a Christian if they don't walk with integrity. That's what makes us the body of Christ, because we know who we are. We're firm in who we are. And we stay walking with integrity. We keep walking with integrity. Even if our blessings don't come as soon as we pray for it. Even if our blessing doesn't come, the next week or the next month. That doesn't mean we lose faith in God delivering our blessing or seeing us through. We just keep walking with integrity, until He delivers it. And then even when He does deliver it, we still remain faithful and we still continue to walk with integrity after. And so, like I said earlier in the podcast, a person can only fake being a Christian for so long, until the dark comes to light. So if you're walking with integrity, that means you're walking with the Lord. But if you're not walking with integrity, that means you're not walking with the Lord. If that makes sense. And the second part of Proverbs 10:9 really stuck out to me the most because it said those who follow crooked paths will be exposed, meaning that if we follow crooked paths, you know, if anybody follows crooked paths that are against God, they will get exposed. And that's what a fake Christian is. A fake Christian is someone who claims to be a Christian, but is not a real Christian because their actions behind closed doors do not show. That is what a fake Christian is. That is what being a fake Christian means. So don't fake being a Christian, because you will get caught. And just because you don't get caught by human beings, or just because you don't get caught by people, doesn't mean you never will, and it doesn't mean that you won't get caught by anyone. Because if you don't get caught by anyone, then you'll get caught by God. Because, like I said earlier in the podcast as well, God knows all and God sees all, so it's important to always be obedient to what He wants you to do and what He wants us to do. And this is really like the last thing I have to say on the commonness of faking being a Christian. You will be surprised on how many people are actually out faking being a Christian instead of being a real one. And if you see someone faking being a Christian, or you recognize someone faking being a Christian, or maybe if you even know someone faking being a Christian, it is important to save that person. And if they don't want to be saved, meaning you're trying to, but they're not accepting it, just pray for them. That's all you can do. You can't save someone that doesn't want to be saved, and you can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped either. So it's important to always keep that type of mindset, because there's people out there who are reaping the harvest of their disobedience, all because they are faking being a Christian. And I'm not going to say faking being a Christian is hard, because it's not. Faking being a Christian is actually easy, because anybody can do it. Adding on to what I literally just said, do you realize that anybody can fake being a Christian, but not anybody can be a Christian? People act like being a Christian, it's a good label to have over your life and over your name, but it's more than just being a Christian and saying it. Being a Christian is very difficult. Like, you have to continuously deny yourself each and every single day. You have to love God more than your mom, your dad, you know, your kid, your spouse. You have to love God more than all that, because Luke even says it. If you love your mother or father more than me, you're not worthy of being mine. If you love your spouse or your children more than me, you're not worthy of being mine. If you refuse to take up your cross and deny yourself every day, you're not worthy of being mine. God makes no mistakes in His word. So if you disobey the word, you won't receive your blessing. If you disobey what God told you to do, then you won't receive your blessings. It's just so important to have integrity and walk safely as a Christian. And if you fake being a Christian, you lack integrity. So that's all that's saying on that. Also, what has God delivered me from? God has delivered me from lust, greed, jealousy, envy, hate, and fornication. God delivered me from all that when I was in high school. After I graduated high school, I was like, so many things in my walk have to change. And if I don't change, then my walk won't change. So I knew I had to do something, and I had to be the change. I started getting in my word. I started reading more and praying more. And I started seeing results from it, better results. My happiness went up. Peace went up, my joy went up, my circle changed, my grades changed. The trajectory of my whole life and my whole path of God changed, just to something completely different. And I thank God that He turned my life around, because when I was in high school, I'm not gonna say I was a terrible student and a terrible kid, but as far as my walk, I was going in the wrong direction. If this is the right direction, I was going this way, till God rerouted me and proved me this way. So that's really all I gotta say for this podcast. I hope this podcast was able to touch somebody. I hope somebody felt it. I hope you understood it. You listening to this right now. And I hope you stay tuned for more podcasts that I release. Also, my new album, abbreviated as TBTB, is going to have its very own track list reveal in mid-July. Y'all stay tuned for that. I can't wait to release this Christian album that I've been working on since April. That's 4 months. 4 months from the start of making it, the drop date. From April all the way to August. That's 4 hard-working months that I had to make all 17 songs on my album. So y'all stay tuned, because this Christian album is going to be worth it. My full album, TBTB, releases in early August. So y'all stay tuned for that. I can't wait to put this big project out. I hope the whole world hears it. I hope they love it. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. Y'all stay tuned for Powered by Christ Podcast Season 2, Episode 5, coming out next. My name is Malachi Jones, musically known as MalWorldWide. Y'all stay tuned for more, and that's all I gotta say. Peace out. I gotta get myself in line, so I can't be lazy. When I ask God to give